Browns. That's why you have no idea who he is, most likely. He is going to play for the Atlanta Falcons, and they had a very drastically improved offensive line last year, especially in the running game. To add Alex Mack to that mix, boy, Falcons offense just every year it's like, how can they get better? And then they find a way to do it. Um, so if Falcons, it's strictly defense now. Look for them defense in the draft and defense in the rest of free agency. Maybe a tight end wouldn't kill him either. It does help to have at least one. Who else we got? Ladarius Green, tight end, is from San Diego last year, who had huge freaking fantasy numbers until he went out with injury, playing in place of Antonio Gates, who was suspended for the first 4 games, especially. He will be replacing Heath Miller as the Pittsburgh Steelers tight end. We already talked about Alex Boone, the huge signing, going to our Minnesota Vikings. He was the second best guard or most coveted guard on the open market this year, behind one Mr. Kalichi Osemele. Bless you. Thank you. You're welcome. Um, but anyway, Kalichi Osemele signed with the Oakland Raiders, who have just been spending a ton of money on the people they're signing. Same with Jacksonville. Like, some of these teams are way under the cap and way overspending as a result of it. But they got the most coveted offensive lineman, or at least guard offensive lineman. And he came, I want to say, from Baltimore. And they signed him to a 5-year deal worth $60 million. I want to say that Alex Boone deal, as the second best, was somewhere along the lines of, what was it? It was like 4 years, $28 million, something like that. So just a way better contract for the Vikings to pick up as well there. Assembly might offer a little more position flexibility, but whatever. Boone's got position flexibility too. Chargers re-sign Antonio Gates yet, and they pick up wide receiver Travis Benjamin from the Cleveland Browns, so that's nice, adding a playmaker to Phillip Rivers at wide receiver. Bengals keep safety George Iloka. A lot of Vikings fans had their hopes set on that. Rolando McClain, linebacker, stays with the Cowboys for a 1-year, $5 million deal. Ian Williams, defensive tackle, moving from Miami to San Francisco. We mentioned Marvin Jones in Detroit. Janoris Jenkins gets $12 million a year to play defensive back now for the New York Football Giants. That's insane. Like, $12 million a year, that's top dollar. He is not even questioned. He's not even debatably a top 10 corner in the National Football League. Again, just another bad big money signing for the Giants. They're losing. Steelers keep offensive lineman Ramon Foster. That was big for them. Colt McCoy is going to Washington, D.C. to the Redskins to back up Kirk Cousins. Malik Jackson heading to the Jacksonville Jaguars for making $15 million a year. Holy guacamole. And it's either a 5 or 6 year deal. Wow. That's huge. Yeah, JPP was $10.5 million. Richie Incognito, another guard we were hoping to possibly land, stays in Buffalo, signing a new 3-year deal. Tamba Hali stays with the Chiefs. Ben Watson, tight end, veteran journeyman, goes from the New Orleans Saints to the Ravens. Mario Williams let go by the Bills. He signs a deal with the Miami Dolphins. Good Lord, Mario Williams, Cameron Wake, and Ndamukong Suh as 3 of your front 4 offensive linemen. Wow. And for the record, Mario Williams doesn't stink, isn't a bust. He's had a great career. He just has never been on a winner or a big market team, so no one's ever paid any attention. And this last season was the first year that his numbers took any kind of drop at all in his career since being a pro, and that was still right around 7 sacks. So no reason to think that he'll be worse than that or not bounce back, especially with all the other great players they're going to have to contend with on that defense. Charles Johnson, defensive end, stud, will be staying put in Carolina. Adam Vinatieri, 42-year-old kicker, is signed on to play another season with the Indianapolis Colts. Let's see who else we got. Raiders also get some pass rush on defense to go with Khalil Mack by the name of Bruce Irvin, former first-round draft pick of the Seattle Seahawks. Big stud there. Chris Ivory, running back, will be formerly of the Saints, will be backing up T.J. Yeldon for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And sticking with, a big talker that we've had here, like I said, moving on to trades, though, will the Miami Dolphins acquire Kiko Alonso, linebacker, and Byron Maxwell, defensive back from the Philadelphia Eagles. And those were two of their big, huge acquisitions just last season. Kiko Alonso is the guy that they traded LaShawn McCoy for pretty much straight up. And Byron Maxwell was their big free agent acquisition last year that I said was one of the dumbest things I'd ever seen. Stummest things I'd ever seen, where they paid Byron Maxwell 5 years, $60 million. For the Seahawks garbage. I mean, jeez, what? Oh my gosh. But that's not to say he's bad. He was just a horribly overpaid free agent signing. You know, and Kiko Alonso, he's a stud when he can play, but he's so often injured. But man, if both of those guys can contribute, Miami might have just made a, on paper stud defense even more studly. And for the record, the draft picks that they're receiving are undisclosed. But I would assume they'd be fairly significant, first, second, third rounders over the course of a couple years would be my guess. But the Eagles weren't there, they weren't done yet. They didn't stop there in their whole fire clearance sale of rejects from the failed Chip Kelly era. Although they did sign Sam Bradford to a 2-year, $19 million a year contract, which is insane. But anyway, the other person that they decided to trade away and get rid of was running back DeMarco Murray, who was their other big free agent signing on the offensive side of the ball last year, stealing him away from the Dallas Cowboys. And I felt that was the only reason they even offered him a contract, was just to take him away from the Cowboys. But they traded him to the Tennessee Titans. So phenomenal move, I think, for the Titans. I'm not a huge DeMarco Murray fan one bit. I think he's one of the most overrated players in all of football, without question. Dude's had one good year ever. Like, seriously, slow down on this guy. But yeah, I think for the Titans, and then having a young quarterback like Mariota, that should only help give him better coverages and a more balanced offensive attack and playbook to play call from and things like that. So I love it theoretically, from a situational fit standpoint. Oh my Lanta. And wow. Okay, so this is huge. The details, I just looked at the details of the DeMarco Murray trade. Here's the trade. Okay, here's the trade. And I'm not even going to comment on it, because you should be able to form your own obvious, accurate opinion about this and what it means. But so the Eagles traded away DeMarco Murray, running back, and their 4th round draft pick, which is 110th overall. Okay, so the Eagles traded away DeMarco Murray and their 4th round draft pick, 110th overall. What the Eagles get from the Titans in return is the Titans' 4th round draft pick, 97 overall. They traded their 4th round draft pick and DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray was only worth moving up 13 spots in the 4th round of the draft. It wasn't even worth the 4th round pick. No, we just traded our 4th round draft pick for DeMarco Murray and a 4th round draft pick. Like, way to go, Titans. That's all I got to say. Way to go, Titans. Unbelievable. Oh, Philadelphia, you're a mess. Seriously, you're a mess. Chip Kelly or no Chip Kelly. Like, I thought getting rid of Chip Kelly was going to help you guys, because he's toxic. Like, he's never going to win anywhere in the NFL regularly, consistently. He's a college guy. He needs to go back to college. He's a gimmick guy, okay? He doesn't have what it takes to be a perennially successful head coach in the NFL, period. I'm right. Just listen to me. But no, that's not enough for Philly. Like, their incompetence goes far beyond who's playing the head coach. Like, that just whole organization and front office, I have to believe, is just, drunken monkeys on typewriters or something. Well, smartphones, I guess, now probably. But anyway, sucks to be you if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Oh, boy, but I don't know about you, but I don't think I can really handle any more football talk, at least not right now. That's just, man, that has been an information overload. I think we got to pull back on the reins a little bit. We're going to steer out of football. But we do have one final football topic that we will discuss at the end of our show in our Balls Deep Thought of the Day segment. So if you are a football fan, fear not. We do have one more yet for you if you stick around long enough to hear it, which should only be about 35 minutes or so, because gosh darn it all, I said it was going to be a 60 to 90 minute show, and we're almost at 60 minutes here now, and I haven't talked anything but freaking football. So let's get out of football. Let's talk some other sports. So for our first non-football related story of this week's show, let's go to what was the runner-up for our Balls on Fire opening segment, and that would be the events that transpired this past Saturday at UFC 196, where we saw not one upset in a championship fight, but two upsets in championship fights, and we have two new champion fighters as a result in the UFC. One being male, one being female. And in the rare event that you missed what happened, here is what happened. In the main event, champion Conor McGregor, fairly one of the biggest stars they've got, arguably their biggest male star in all of UFC right now, was defeated in round 2 of the fight by rear naked choke submission from Nate Diaz. Now, the interesting thing I pointed out about this fight on last week's show that I was going to come back to in the event that McGregor were to lose was the fact that this fight was being held at 170, and this was the first time ever that McGregor had fought at that weight. Previously, the weights he was used to fighting at were 145 pounds and 155 pounds, so that extra 15 pounds, one could argue, did play a factor into this loss. I'd love to see the rematch held at a lower weight just to kind of put any, asterisk or question marks by that to bed if, there is such a rematch set. And by the sounds of it, McGregor wants to fight again, and he wants to fight as soon as possible. So look for that coming up. But that, ironically enough, in my opinion, wasn't even the biggest story. A couple side notes from that fight, quick before moving on. Conor McGregor was a total champ in loss as in victory, owning it, giving credit to the other opponent, and, just being classy. So I appreciated that, especially when he's known for being a big talker. Some people don't like him. I personally like him a lot. It says apparently that Diaz-McGregor fight wasn't a title fight, which would make sense because I didn't think McGregor had a title at 170 pounds that he could put on the line. So it was just a match, featuring a champion. It appears at least here. So my bad on that, but hey, at least I caught a correction for once instead of just making the mistake and then it stays a mistake. But also another interesting note in that fight, UFC play-by-play man John Anik, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. He said that if Diaz were to beat McGregor, he would go out and get a tattoo for Nate Diaz. And he wasn't kidding. He was a man of his word. He went out and got a 209 or a 209 tattoo for Nate Diaz to be a man of his word and own up on his side of whatever, bet with himself he made and put his money where his mouth is. So, that's impressive too. You got to like that. But the biggest story to me from this whole event was in the title fight, which took place before the main event, and that featured undefeated bantamweight champion Holly Holm, who became champion in her last fight where she dethroned the mighty Ronda Rousey, and this was her first fight since then. Both Dana White and her, from what I'm told, but definitely Dana White, were not big fans of the idea of her having a fight before Ronda's rematch with her. I felt that it was almost mandatory. You kind of have to, you're the champion. You don't just get to not fight for 6 months then. You have to be a fighting, defending champion. And also it would have really added to the rematch. But now that rematch got royally messed up, and that's where Dana White is pissed off because Holly Holm lost in the 5th round She was winning on the scorecards, had she